area. That is our ketchup and barbecue sauce manufacturing facility. So we make quite a high number of cases of ketchup and barbecue sauce down in that facility each year. So everything we do is food, and everything's based in Ohio.
Very nice.
Cool. Well, with the pandemic going on, there's a lot of companies that have been super affected by COVID. How has your company been affected by COVID?
We could do the entire hour together on COVID topics. We really could. I'll try to be concise here, but like many organizations, like all organizations, we are doing things different now. There's a new normal for us. We immediately at the start of the COVID situation, we were identified as an essential employer, being one that is responsible for maintaining the food supply. Our plants have run continuously through this entire COVID situation. What I mean by that is I don't mean continuous like 24/7. I just mean continuous. We never stopped operating. Our workers, our employees are considered essential, and that was really important to us and to everyone that we were able to keep going. But the way we go about business right now and the way we go about doing things is completely changed. We formed a committee immediately made up of myself. I led the committee, made up of myself, the senior management team, as well as the plant managers, quality managers, and human resource managers from each of the facilities. And we met on a very regular basis. We continue to meet now. We've gone from the frequency of meetings being every other day in the beginning to weekly to now they're monthly. But we were identifying things that we needed to do as a company in order to keep everyone safe and protect the workforce. Things we're doing now that we weren't doing before, temperature checks whenever people come into the facilities, temperature and health checks. We are doing a lot of hand washing, a lot of sanitizing, extra cleaning. We're doing face coverings, face masks, face coverings for everyone. Big campaigns on staying at home when you're sick. Huge campaigns right now on flu vaccinations. I will, since this is the topic of the week here, I will just go off script here for a second and tell everyone, if you haven't had your flu shots, go get it. I had mine at Kroger over the weekend. It literally took 5 minutes and cost nothing. Flu shots are going to be in really big demand. Talking to the pharmacist over the weekend, she's administered more flu shots before October 1st than she ever has. And the symptoms between COVID and flu are so similar that it's really we need to do everything we can to keep the flu out. The one big differentiation of symptom wise between the two is the loss of taste and smell with COVID. You don't necessarily have that with the flu, but boy, the only way you can really tell for sure is to get a test. So we're really encouraging. We're doing on-site flu shot clinics. We're encouraging people to go to pharmacies and that and get the shots. But yeah, I mean, just overall, the way we go about business, the way we go about everything that we do, it really has been. There's a new normal, as someone said on our call yesterday. Everything now is a new normal. We're actually, might be interesting for everyone to hear this. We're actually past the point now where people are asking, how much longer do we have to wear the face coverings? How much longer do I have to get my temperature checked every day?
Right.
How much longer, we're past that. It's kind of the expectation now. So yeah, we're probably not unlike a lot of companies that have had to make a lot of positive changes for the response to this. I was telling Katie earlier, I've actually worked a grand total of 0 days from my home office during this entire deal. So I might be in the minority there. But we did have some people that worked from home. But the people that worked from home they were probably primarily in administrative and support type positions. They've all been back since June 1st. So we've been back to some sense of our new normal here since then.
Right.
Yeah.
So since you were deemed essential, you've obviously been performing your normal duties. Have you hired anyone throughout the pandemic, and have you done that virtually? Getting kind of to the main topic of our discussion here.
Yeah. Great question. Yeah, we've hired a ton of people, and we've hired numerous people, and whether those are plant level positions or more of the administrative or salary type support positions. Yeah, we have not stopped hiring by any stretch. If we're running, we're hiring. So yeah, hiring has been very hiring's been very brisk for us. I will tell you, one thing that I didn't mention that kind of leads into this is the COVID situation forced us to change how we communicate. And that was one of the more important things as well. We're a Zoom company, so everybody's on Zoom, and I will tell you in all honesty and sincerity, there hasn't been a day since March where I have not been on a Zoom call, and it's great. I use it for everything from meetings that I need to conduct to interviews to I use it for a ton of things, and I'm a huge fan of Zoom, and I will tell you that if there's one thing that one positive change that was forced upon us, it was putting Zoom in place, because that's something I think no matter how this pandemic goes and the twists and turns and face masks may disappear someday, temperature checks may disappear someday, Zoom is not disappearing. So that's going to be a real win for us.
So what are some qualities that stand out to you while like hiring in a virtual interview?
Yeah, from a virtual perspective, or just like in general?
We'll go virtual.
Virtual, okay. I'll tell you how I'll answer this. Before I got the list of questions from Katie today, I kind of put together like the top 4 things that I think you need to kind of pay attention to if you're doing a virtual interview. I'll just answer it by going through those 4 things, if that's okay. We might answer a couple of these a little later on, and if the topics come up again later on, we can skip them. But I'll give you my top, what I call my top 4.5 things, because the last one's kind of a half. But top 4.5 things. First thing, be professional. Professional is huge. Professional starts way before the Zoom interview. Professional starts with your email address, right? Don't look for a job with the email address Bud Light Man 22. That's not what you. That's not really what you want to. The image you want to portray there. Everything from your email address to your actual appearance, to your dress, to you want to make the event as professional as you can. Maintain your professional appearance, your professional demeanor, just as if you were sitting across the desk from somebody. So professionalism and maintain that is huge. The second thing I would say is you have a really unique opportunity here to set the scene for the interview. And setting the scene, I'm talking about everything from cleaning off your desk, cleaning the room, cleaning the clutter, having a clear background, your lighting, making sure you have the right kind of lighting going in the room, background noise. There's lots of things you can do to kind of set the scene and make sure that you have the right scene going. I was talking to somebody just the other day, and I was telling them that I was getting ready to be a part of this conversation, and I was talking to him about the 4 things and to set the scene, and he started laughing. He said, "Well, you know, you're doing this this conversation on Tuesday." He said, "You're going to be doing it like 3-4 hours before the presidential debate." I go, "Yeah, I am." And he said, "Well, it's probably a good tip to let everybody know they don't want to have a bunch of Trump or Biden posters hanging in the background, you know, as you're doing." I said, "There's a lot of things you don't want to have hanging in the background." So I think those are probably good. I think you know, your rock concert posters, whatever's hanging back, you want to make sure that you're sending the right message and set the scene the right way. Thirdly, so be professional, set the scene. Thirdly, test out your technology. It's probably the number one question, number one thing that comes up. It happens to all of us. It happens to the best of us. That COVID committee call that I was telling you about yesterday that I had with all the key leaders in the company, I'm hosting the thing. My internet dropped as I was here, so I couldn't get it going. So I quickly had my cell phone and was able to dial in on my cell phone, so I was able to get back on it, at least from a voice perspective, you know. But it happens. Have a backup plan. If your internet goes, have a backup plan. You know, have the Zoom link, have that in your calendar so you can hit your phone and you can get back in. You know, test out your volume, test out your microphone, your speakers. You know, if you're going to use earbuds, that's fine. You make sure your earbuds are charged. Make sure your computer is either plugged in or charged. Make sure you know your login and your username and your password for your Zoom or whatever you're gonna use. Or if you need to create a username or password, you know, don't be logging in at 3:59 and then the thing says you have to create a username and a password. Now you're, you know, in a rush and now you're late for the thing. So, you know, test that stuff out ahead of time. Fourthly, distractions. Get rid of distractions. And what I mean by a distraction could be get your cell phone on silent. Put your cell phone away. Nothing turns off an interviewer more than to be in a conversation, you know, with Katie, and all of a sudden I see Katie's head go down, and you know, it's just kind of answering a text or whatever. You know, put that thing away. You know, turn your volume down or turn your TV off. Turn your volume off on your TV. Get your cell phone on mute. And you know, if you're my strong recommendation would be that you're kind of in a quiet space in front of a computer and you're doing this thing with your screen on. And that's my when I said 4.5, that's my half. The last one here is figure out what the protocol is going to be ahead of time with regards to the camera. And what I mean by that is, you know, some people have the cameras on. Some people just have their name show up. Some people have a picture show up in place of their name. Some people have their phone number come up. I've seen a lot of different ways to do this. If I'm interviewing a person, I much prefer to be interacting with them and see them face to face, as opposed to me being face to face or me being face, and them being phone, I guess, face to phone. You know, I just think that when they're not on the when you're not seeing them, it's just a little different level of engagement, a little different level of connectivity. And with the job situation, I really think you want to have that face-to-face connection. So professionalism, set the scene, test out your technology, get rid of distractions, and use your camera. Those would be the big things I would say.
Very nice. And you kind of hit on these, but are there any other key differences between in-person and virtual interviews where you might want to focus on one thing that you would normally not have to focus on in person, or vice versa?
You need to probably the amount of prep work, the different type of prep work that you need to do. And what I mean by that is, you know, you need to set that scene and prep your scene and prep yourself a little more than. Now there's trade-offs, you know. you're not going to get lost on your way to a Zoom interview, right? There's a trade-off, you don't need to be 15 minutes early, to give yourself that buffer time in case you get lost or what have you. I saw that question somewhere along the lines here. I think if you're ready to go 5 minutes ahead of time, that's perfectly acceptable. I don't think that you need to be much more than that. Yeah, I just think that the biggest differences, I think Zooms of the world allow us to interact in a way that limit the amount of differences. I just really think that you really can, especially when you're using your camera, you can interact. You can get that interaction about as close to normal when you're doing something like Zoom.
So going off that prep work, what kinds of things should you know about the company before interviewing with them?
I'll tell you what, I always ask, so what do you know about us? I always ask, do you think I care what they know about us? Do you think I care if they did a little bit of research on us? Yep, sure do. It just shows a little extra effort. It shows a little extra interest from their perspective. And, it's really not that difficult to get in front of Google and type in the Fremont Company, and you see our website and you see everything there is to know about us. I mean, it's the research ahead of time is pretty darn important.
And kind of going off your first point of being professional, how do you recommend dressing? Are there certain tips or tricks like bright colors, patterns? What kind of things do you see that turn you on, turn you off?
Yeah, it's I would make sure, I would, if this is an actual job interview, even though it's virtual, I would not say, we're in the work from home mode and the whole 9 yards and the casual mode. You got one chance to make a good first impression. And I think you have to go, for the job interview, for the types of positions that you guys are going to be interviewing for. I think you need to go the professional dress route. I really do. I think that it's, again, you're making the first impression. If you find out then through the conversation that it's more of a casual type situation, that's no problem. As an interviewer, if I was bringing someone into my plant, if I had a Zoom with them ahead of time or a phone screen with them ahead of time, I would prepare them to, hey, the second conversation is going to be in the plant. When you dress to be in our plant, you don't need to wear a sport coat. You don't need to wear a tie. We're going to take a tour. We're going to give you safety glasses, and we're going to give you earplugs, and going to give you hair nets, and those type of things. So I wouldn't necessarily want someone in a shirt and tie and jacket, walking through the plant. I tell the females, you can't walk into our manufacturing facilities in dresses and skirts and that kind of stuff. I need to have closed-toed shoes and slacks on, those sort of things. So I would prepare a person for that, because it's a little bit unique for our industry. But as far as making the good first impression in a Zoom, I think that that's super, super important. It's a I always dress to impress in the first conversation, and then you can kind of fit the culture there for conversations 2 and beyond.
So what are some questions you should ask during an interview, like to stay engaged with you?
Questions that you would ask me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. I would ask, I love it, absolutely love it, when people ask me about my culture. I think it's a great question. There's a lot of culture stuff on our website, and if you go onto our website, you'll see our purpose, which is to feed the world like family, and you'll see our 4 guiding principles. You'll see some of the things that we do in the community, and some of the outreach things that we do. So culture questions, I think, are really good, and they show a different level of engagement. And I think that I think now people want to be. I found that people want to be part of something a little more than just a place to go get a paycheck. So I think the culture questions, I like to hear those. I think it shows a little different interest level from a candidate. I also want, I'd like, if I was in your shoes, I would want to know, what does it take for a person? I guess how are you planning on measuring if a person's successful in this opportunity? Because I think a person needs to know, what are the expectations for the position, and how's a person going to know in X amount of time if they're doing a good job or not? I think that's a huge important question. I think it's fair to ask a little bit about what's the roadmap look like for the first 30, 60, 90 days. Everybody has an opportunity to for some sort of an orientation or an onboarding or a break-in period, and what are the types of things that you can expect during that time frame. I think if you start with those types of questions about culture, questions about expectations, questions about what's that first 90 days realistically going to look like, I think you set a pretty darn good first impression by asking stuff like that.
And kind of as a follow-up to that, is it appropriate to ask about compensation, or after how many interviews is it appropriate to ask about pay?
That's a great question, and there's I think that it's probably a little bit of that depends upon how the conversation's going. It really does. I think that in that first conversation, if the first conversation is just a quick get to know you, it's a 15-20 minute deal, and then we're going to schedule a little more in-depth conversation where we really kind of get into it. I think in that second get into it conversation is really when you're able to do it, to ask that question. If your first conversation is a really in the weeds, we're getting down to details. We're really, I think, I hate to say some of it's art, but it is. Some of it's the art of the conversation, and just how's the conversation going, and is the timing right? And you know what? If you ask it, I'm not going to think horribly of you if you ask it, and I'm not going to think horribly of you if you don't. There's a lot more things that are going to go into my decision-making process than, did somebody ask me what the job pays? So I guess there's a little bit of an art to that, but from the same standpoint, I know that you guys are all doing your research, and I also understand that here's my only compensation question or only compensation advice that I would give to all of you. Okay. And this is going to sound like a really old dude. I'm actually not that old. I'm only 49. I'm not that old. But this will sound old. Okay. Stay off the internet is what I would say. All right. And what I mean by that is stay off PayScale, stay off salary.com, stay off Glassdoor. Okay. Because from my perspective, those aren't salary websites. Those are websites that use salary as a way to get clicks, to be able to show their advertisers that they have clicks. Okay, so that is my word of advice on that kind of stuff. I've never seen anyone go on salary.com and come back and say, I'm making too much money according to salary.com. Yeah, that classify that on the list of things you're never going to hear, right? And it's if you really want some good salary and wage data, like the Employers Association here in town, they conduct a local wage survey that's really good. There's other ways to be able to get that data, but I would just be I don't want to be on a soapbox here about those websites, but boy, just have some, you can use that as part of your research, but just don't rely completely on that, because those are going to be a little bit inflated. And if you're the second part to that is I would say is, don't be afraid to get into an opportunity, and maybe take a spot that the comp isn't exactly what you were looking for, but don't be afraid to get in there, roll your sleeves up, become crazy valuable, become crazy worthwhile, and throughout that time, a couple things are going to happen. You're going to be increasing your skills inventory. You're going to be increasing your worth. They're going to be, and the company's going to see that, and the company's going to reward great performance. And from the same perspective, you're also going to be, as you're gaining that experience and gaining the knowledge, you'll be in a position where you're able to leverage your career a little bit also. So I guess don't be afraid to get in there and pay your dues here and work hard for a few years and develop that develop your profile, because that will pay off.
Great, thank you for that. So what is the biggest mistake you could do during an online interview?
Pick your nose. The biggest mistake, the biggest mistake is to grab your phone and start texting. Seriously. I mean, the biggest mistake, dude, stuff's going to happen. Dogs are going to bark. Kids are going to run in the room. Stuff's going to happen, right? But for you to become distracted from the conversation that we're involved in by you, looking down or typing, or you answering a text, or breaking the engagement that we have is probably the number one thing you cannot do. Don't be the one that breaks the focus or the flow, or don't be the one that intentionally, don't be distracted. Be 100% engaged and informed and into this conversation. That's the biggest thing.
And if any interruptions were to occur, what's the best way to handle them? Ignore them? Apologize? Oh,
no, I don't ignore them. I would say, hey, I'm sorry about that. It's my dog. I apologize. I thought I had the dog in the other room there. My bad. And if it continues, I apologize. Give me 1 second here and get your door closed. No problem. That doesn't bother me. Yeah, hey, man, that life happens, right? That's fine. Again, that's I'd much rather have Max barking than I would have you on your phone texting. So that's kind of the deal. So yeah.
And how would you deal with computer or connection problems?
I would have that backup plan, and really that's what I did yesterday. These Zoom calls, you can get in camera, and you can also get in dial-in, right? Mm-hmm. I would literally have the Zoom phone number and the whole 9 yards ready to go on your phone. So if you lose internet, you can grab the phone, dial in, you can at least have the voice going. I think use your cell phone as a pretty good backup plan.
And what should you have accessible besides like your phone during an interview to kind of be prepared for anything that you might need to remember or talk to the interviewer about? Yeah,
I have in regards to the preparation that you have for your for the interview, whether it's in person, virtual, whatever. I find it very odd if people aren't taking notes. Very odd. So if someone in a salary type position, walks in to interview with me, and they walk in empty-handed, I find that very strange. I'm a note taker. I've always been a note taker. I go by the mantra, write it down so you can forget about it, because I don't want to have to remember 1,000 different things. I learn by writing stuff down, so I'm a huge note taker. Here's the notes for the conversation today on my top 4.5 things I wanted to talk about. And I also have notes on the questions that Katie sent to me earlier. So I have notes here, and I think that's no problem for you to have notes ready, as well as have your questions ready, have a pen in your hand, be taking notes, writing stuff down, no problem. Yeah, no problem at all.
So how long do virtual interviews typically last?
Great question. And one of the things that I normally do is I will normally set the stage kind of at the beginning of the call and say something, okay, I have about a half hour set aside for this, or I have 45 minutes set aside for this, or hey, I just want this to be a quick opportunity for us to do a meet and greet and exchange some preliminary information. I have 15 minutes set aside. I will normally, as the HR person, kind of set the time frame for that. And I think it's up to the HR person to be the one to dictate how long it goes. How long I shouldn't say HR person, it could the hiring manager, because it could be, you could be interviewing with a CFO, you can be interviewing with a county manager, you could be interviewing with a sales manager, you could be interviewing with an operations manager, it could be anybody. I think it's up to them to dictate how long it goes. I think the initial phone conversation and initial meet and greet is probably virtually about a half hour or so. And then I think your follow-ups go no less than an hour. Yeah. And there's probably multiple. Yeah.
And then typically, how many people are included in the interview? Are there multiple people from your company, or is it ever like a group interview with multiple candidates at the same time? How does that work?
Great question. It's the way I do it, the first one's going to be me. And then when we have some additional, we gather for a second conversation, I'll either bring additional people into the Zoom call, or I may, depending upon schedules, I may just set up some Zooms directly between yourself and our sales manager, and allow you guys to talk. But I very, very rarely will have multiple candidates in one Zoom. I can't think of a time when I've done that. So multiple hiring managers, yes. Multiple candidates, no.
So this is a good question for me, because my my closet's right here. But how should your background?
I noticed. It's clean though.
Thank you. Yeah, it's organized.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
But how should your background be set up?
As distraction-free as possible. As distraction-free. Now, let's talk, real life here, okay? If you've got a messy closet back there, but you can sell your way out of a paper bag, I don't really care what your closet looks like, right? So, again, you want to create a good first impression. You want to set the scene. You want it to be as clutter-free as possible. I think it's just the way this is going. But if I had 3 candidates and 2 of them were squeaky clean, but they weren't the right fit, and one had a closet door open, but he wowed my socks off, well, I'm not going to hold the closet door against the person. Let's put it like that. So.
And then after the interview, how should you follow up with the employer?
Great question. So I think you need to have a thank you note via email out to that person. If it's longer than 24 hours, that's crazy long. I don't think it has to be done within 24 minutes, but man, if you're waiting past 24 hours, that's crazy long. I mean, that's, if your Zoom's in the morning and you want to send it in the afternoon, that's great. If your Zoom's in the afternoon and you want to send it the following morning, that's fine. But you want to have that initial reach out, the initial contact, the initial thank you via email out within 24 hours. Then I think that if you haven't heard anything, or you don't know what the next step is, and again, you talk about questions that should be asked. Add this to your list. I mean, what's the next step in the process, and when can I expect to hear back from you? That's that should be established, and you really should have an idea what that's like. When you ask that question, then you're going to send your thank you. The guy's going to respond, yeah, you'll hear back from me by Friday with the next step, right? So you send your thank you letter out right away within 24, right? Today's Tuesday. You're going to let it get to Friday. You haven't heard by the person by Friday. I'm sending them a note Saturday saying, hey, just wanted to check in. Hope everything's going well and had a great week. Want you to know I'm definitely interested in pursuing the opportunity. Let me know what the next step is, and I'll hope to hear back from you here on Monday. So I guess the point is, you have an idea of the timeline ahead of time, 24 hours on the thank you note, and then you respect their timeline. But once their timeline passes, you're on it right away.
And say as a candidate that you go through an interview and you're not interested in the job. After talking, you're not interested in their culture, or just nothing didn't click. Do you still recommend sending something to the interviewer?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think so. Because here's what happens, right? Interviewers change jobs. And just because that's not the right opportunity today, it could be 3 years down the pipe, and that person's gone from ABC company to XYZ company, and now you're sending a resume out, and guess who's looking at it at XYZ, and they're thinking, Katie Christ, yeah, I remember talking to Katie. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Nothing. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. So keep in mind that when you're interviewing, there's not only a candidate to company relationship that's going on there, but there's a candidate to person relationship, hiring professional relationship that's going on there. So yeah, I think you keep it, you keep the formalization, you keep the communication, you keep that kind of stuff going, because yeah, you just never know when the paths are going to cross.
And we did get one audience question so far. What do you look for specifically on a resume before you set up an interview? Like, what is something that really draws your attention to the resume where you're like, okay, I'm willing to take the time to interview this person?
Yeah, great question. I'll answer that in a couple different ways. For candidates that are experienced, and I understand that a lot of you are in school, but this question can be applicable to people in school as well. I'm looking at previous experience, but I'm also looking at length of time in positions, and I'm looking at gaps of dates of employment. I will tell you that in today's environment and in today's economy, and with as such a shortage of candidates as there are right now, if I'm hiring someone that's a professional in the food industry that is not working right now, they're going to have to really answer some questions as to why they're not working. And the only reason for that is the economy is so hot right now, and there's so much going right now. It is people. There's definitely more people working than not. So I definitely like to look at that length of time. Someone once told me, and this is a good analogy. This might make sense for you guys. There's a candidate that's been at a job for 10 years, and a candidate that's had 10 jobs in 10 years. Who has the better experience? Well, I would say the person that has the one job in 10 years has better experience, because the person that's had 10 jobs over 10 years, in my mind, has had 1 year of experience 10 times. If that makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So length of employment, job hopping. The job hopping thing's a big deal. It really is. Especially if you're somewhere for 2-3 months and so, that's why it's so important that it's the interviewing process and the hiring process is the right fit, not only for us as an employer, but for you as the candidate also. It's got to be the right fit, because the last thing you want to do is jump in there and it not be what you want to do 4 months down the road, 5 months down the road, because that you're losing out on 4, 5, 6 months of experience doing what you want to do, but B, then you have that short time frame in your resume, that is going to carry with you. So I just think that the amount of time that a person's spending in a position, the ability for the position to be consistent and one follow another, it's crazy important. Now, how does that relate to college students? Well, internships, volunteer work, whatever you can. Let's just face it. You guys guys and gals are in the process of building your skills inventory and building your experience inventory at the same time. I mean, that's why you're there. I mean, you have an interest in a certain career field. You're getting your education set up. At the same standpoint, you need to start working on the job history part of it, and that's why the internships and those professional experiences are just so important.
We did get another question. This one's kind of interesting. On a lot of job applications, it asks, are we able to contact your previous employer? Do you actually contact them? And how crucial is that to the hiring process for you?
Great question. Depends on the position. If I contact them or not. I oftentimes will. If this is a position that is more of a hourly type position on the plant floor, where I know what we're going to be getting is more of just a verification of the dates of employment, that kind of stuff. That isn't as, it's important, and we'll do it. But what's really meaningful to me are the conversations where we can talk about some of a person's accomplishments, things that they did, how you could, what are some of the best ways to be able to manage and coach and work with a person. And oftentimes I'll tell you what I'll do. For example, if you were applying for us and you put you put a reference down from somebody at Highland, I would say, hey, Katie, I know you listed Josh here from Highland as one of your references. I want you to let Josh know that I'm going to be calling and prepare him ahead of time that we're going to be having this conversation. Now, if this is a confidential type search that you're doing, and you don't want your employer to be you need to let us know that too, because I don't want to be calling your existing employer if you don't want that to happen. But yeah, the conversations, references, that stuff does happen. That stuff's important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One more question came in. How do you suggest using LinkedIn in the interview process? Is it okay to connect with you prior to the interview, right after? Is it an appropriate tool to communicate with you as an employer?
That's a great question. I see the LinkedIn thing a couple different ways. I see the value of it, but I also know a lot of people that aren't on it, and a lot of people that don't participate in. I know people that have the LinkedIn set up, and they have it set up with their personal email address. I mean, they put their company. I mean, they put what they're doing, right, and then they put the name of their company, but they have it tied in their personal email address. So if you're reaching out to them to connect with them, it's going to their personal email address as opposed to their work email address. So I mean, everybody's got kind of a little different deal going. I know some people on LinkedIn that will connect with people on the outside, but won't connect with people in their own company. I know people that do just the opposite on LinkedIn. I know people on LinkedIn that won't connect with people on the outside, but will connect with their own team members. So everybody uses that a little bit different. As far as connecting, I generally would accept that invite. If that was the question, would I accept it? Wouldn't I? I would accept it. And I would, as far as when, I don't think that you want to make that connection prior to the interview. I think
something to do after.
Yeah, I think it's something that you would do after. If it went well, there's an interest there, I think it's something that you would do after. However, I would not send the thank you via LinkedIn.
Okay.
I think that's sent directly to their work email address. Yep.
And like you said, with the whole email address, when we're sending the thank you, should that be from our school, like our UT email, personal email, as long as our personal is not the Bud Light #1?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be either. It really can be either. Yeah, whatever's. I probably would be consistent with whatever email that you used to set up the interview, and whatever email's on your resume. So what I mean by that is, if you've got your UT email address on your resume, I wouldn't switch to your personal one and then switch back. I would just use the one email address and stay consistent with that. I don't think it matters really which one you use, as long as your email's professional. Yeah.
Gotcha. I think we have time for one more. How have your hiring decisions in the past influenced your hiring processes? So your successes and failures as hiring.
That's a great question. I think that I think I'm more I'm very concerned with making sure that the candidate has all the information that they need in order to make the right decision. I'm not interested in the hiring deal coming together unless it's the right fit for both sides. And I kind of manage and navigate that process. You'll hear a term out there called RJP, which is a realistic job preview.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you have a real good insight into what this position and company are going to be like before you accept the job. There's more to the job than the compensation aspect of it. And I think that, hey, let's face it. Okay. There's a mentor of mine. You guys may know him. He at one time, back when I was at the University of Toledo, he went by the nickname of Curly. But you guys may know who I'm referring to. But Dr. Longnecker, who was a good friend and a mentor of mine back in the day, I think he was one of the guys that really stressed to us that, life's too short to be waking up in the morning and dread going into work and dread doing what you're doing. And that has stuck with me through every position that I've had, and I think that's important. It needs to be the right fit for both sides, because if it's not the right fit for you, then guess what? You're probably going to leave, or be asked to leave, and it's just going to create some stress for you in your life. It's going to create some stress on the business, as we need to ultimately replace that position. So the fit's got to be right both ways. So I probably take a lot of time just to make sure that the fit's right both ways. I just want to avoid someone just being really excited that someone's interested in them, and really excited that there's a job offer, and really excited, and yeah, I'll take it. Well, let's slow the roll here and just make sure it's the right fit both ways. I think that's pretty important.
I think that's a great way to end this. Thank you so much for your time, Dave, and thank you for everyone for joining us.
Go Rockets! Thanks, Katie. We'll see you.
Sounds good. Have a great night, everyone.